So in this video, we're going to do intro to linear forms. I know I kind of owed you guys this video, and I tried to cut it a couple times and it didn't go right. I had like some interruptions, so I'm sorry. It's a kind of an old one. All right, so I'm going to make sure that everything is up. So number 5 was at the beginning of your handout, and the idea is what is the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. And so you guys are supposed to know that this is y equals mx plus b. Okay? And like I've been telling everybody, this is like vanilla ice cream, okay? We've been using ice cream analogy of flavors, right? This is the flavor that everybody's used to, all right? And maybe you didn't even know that there was another flavor, right? So it would be like if I taught you guys about ice cream, but you had only ever had vanilla, you would think vanilla is the only flavor, right? Okay, so for a long time, all we ever grabbed was slope-intercept form, right? I taught you guys that the m was the slope, okay? So that explains the slope part of slope-intercept form, and the b is the y-intercept. That explains the intercept part. And so that's why we call it the slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, we get so used to this that we might think it's the only one. But there's other flavors that I've been trying to let you guys know about, and that is the ones that we're going to talk about next. Okay? This one is called the standard form of the equation of a line. Now, when we do the equation of a line in standard form, the x and the y end up on the same side of the equation, and then we have some numbers, all right, some fixed values for a and b. Okay, so this would be a standard form of an equation, and then if I add some values such as like 2x plus 3y equals 5, okay, then we can see now what all these values are. Like according to this is telling me that a is equal to 2, right? B is equal to 3, and c is equal to 5. Get it? Okay, so in standard form, we need to always have integers. Okay, so that's one key, is that a, b, and c are integers. Okay, they have to be. Otherwise, it's not technically in standard form. Okay, so we'll move on to the next thing. And we got over here, we got number 7. Okay, number 7 is point-slope form equation of a line. So the point-slope form is one that we've had on the board for a while now, and I want to make sure that you guys can see that. In this one, we have to know the coordinates of a point, and that's the part where we get the x1 and y1. Okay, so this one kind of comes with a little extra sentence that you always got to say, right? Is that this idea that m is the slope, right? And that we're passing through a point, okay? And this would go through the point with coordinates x1 and y1, okay? So we'll practice this a little bit for you guys to see it, but you know, let's see what that would be. Okay, what if I want to make a line with the slope of 3, right? So again, don't forget the rise over run is 3. Well, 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1, right? And so our rise over run is, you know, go over 1 up 3, right? Our rise over our run. Okay, but now let's say that I want to make an equation that goes through a specific point. So what I'm going to do is switch some numbers in for our x1 and y1. Let's say we want this to go through 4 and 2. Okay, well notice that this is now our x1 value, and this is our y1 value. This is the way that this form works, okay? And then to solve it, what I'm going to do is drop everything where it goes. So I'm going to write y minus whatever y1 is, okay? I can see y1 is 2. Okay, so one thing I've been wanting you guys to focus on is how we have to change the sign of that value, right? Notice over here it looks like a positive 2, but over here, notice that we see a negative 2. Then I write an equal sign, okay? We're going to copy the slope. Okay, in this example, I was telling you, let's write a slope of 3. So that's where we got the 3 from, is just as an example, okay? And then now we'll put x right here, and we have to figure out what x1 has to be. x1 has to be a value, that's the x coordinate, and that's this one. So it tells me to subtract 4. All right, so by doing that, we have this expression right here, and it is complete. All right, we have the point-slope form equation of a line that goes through this point, the point 4, 2, right, and has a slope of 3. Okay, so eventually we got to connect what we're learning with the algebra to the graph, and that is kind of a big idea. So we're going to take steps toward that, but it's going to be a kind of a long road. The first thing you guys got to do is start to tell apart all the forms and just understand all the little pieces of it. So we're not really done with that learning yet, right? We really want to understand all the little pieces and the details in these formulas. So right here, the last little narrative problem that we want to think about is that the difference between f of x equals mx plus b and y equals mx plus b is this, right? Let's say that I have an equation like y equals 2x plus 1. We did this in class also. And if I have another equation that's f of x equals 2x plus 1. So they're the same expression, exactly, right? The only difference is that we have y versus f of x, right? So if I was to plug in a number, right, if I say, what is f of 10, okay? Well, now I can talk about my output before I get it now, right? F of 10 is going to be what I get if I plug in 10 to this expression, right? In this case, I don't know what I'm going to get yet, but I know it's going to be called f of 10, okay? So f of 10 is going to be equal to 2 times 10 plus 1, but 2 times 10 is 20, and 20 plus 1 is 21. So f of 10 is 21, right? So notice that I could talk about this number before I got it. Before I calculated it, we were already talking about it, and I was calling it f of 10, okay? That means what do I get when I plug in 10, okay? That's one of the most important differences between these notations, all right, is that it allows me to see the connection between the input and the output by just making that little f of that number, okay? If I was going to do the same thing in this case, I can't really talk about it until after. I can only say, oh, what will y be equal to if I plug in 1, right? And in this case, y will be equal to 21 also, right? Because 20 plus 1 is 21. Okay, but notice, how can I talk about this value before I get it? I don't have any specific way of, like, referring to it, right? Okay, I can only call this, what is y if x equals 10, right? That's what I can say, and that's kind of a long sentence. Would you rather say all of this, right? Or would you rather say this, just f of 10, okay? So I hope you guys can get that point. That might go over your head sometimes, but hopefully I pulled a couple of you guys in to understand this notation a little better. So now what we're going to do is take a look at these specific examples. This assignment really isn't that bad. We're mainly just trying to take a stock of all of the pieces that go into this form. And we're just trying to learn how to read it, honestly. It's all about the form. In this case, point slope was this assignment. So we'll take a look at it, okay? Again, we want to know that my x1 and y1 are right here, okay, the x and y coordinates, and my m is the slope. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just write the general formula of point slope form. And then now what's going to happen is I'm going to go put in some numbers where they go. Okay, y minus 4, and then it equals the slope of 1, right? So I just put a 1 right there because that's m. And then notice my x1 is also a 4. Okay, so in this case it's a coincidence that won't always happen. Okay, but again, notice that's x1 that I'm changing, not the x. Okay, so that's x minus 4. Okay, so we'd want to look through here and see which one that is. Okay, and we can tell that it's not this one, right? Because look, this one has a positive 4 right there, and we know we got a negative. So it can't be that one. Okay, it can't be this one because here we have a negative 2, and we're supposed to get a 1, so it's not that one. Okay. And in this case, look, we have a positive 4, but we're supposed to get a negative 4. So it can't be this one either. So we should see that this is the answer. So why does it look different? Well, you guys should know that, you know, the 1s are usually invisible. So in this case, if I put the parentheses here in a 1, it's all the same thing. But because the invisible 1 does not need to be written, and because there's nothing else outside of these parentheses, we don't need to write them. Okay, and so that's why they're not there. So in this case, the answer would be D. Okay? Again, I want you to notice and focus on the fact that the x1 values are going to have opposite signs, right? So notice this is a positive 4, and we have a negative 4, right? This is a positive 4, we have a negative 4 in both places, right? So again, the y value goes with y, that's negative, and the x value goes with x, and that's also a negative. So let's change the signs. I'm hoping that if you guys have been following along, you could do these in like 20 seconds or something. So take a look at the board, right? Which one do you think the answer is? All right, well, it's got to be something with the slope of negative 2, so it can't be A and C. All right, so those are already out. So now it's a 50-50 between these two. Okay, don't forget that we have to change the coordinates of our values here, okay? Because the way that this works is that if I have a line that passes through x1, y1, all right, with the slope of m, right? Then our form was y minus y1. Okay, so the key that I want you guys to see this time is that look at the x1. It's negative, okay? But look at the x1 over here. It's positive, okay? That is called opposite signs, right? So you got to recognize that. Now look at this y right here, right? That's negative. And look over here, it's positive. So those have opposite signs, so you want to watch out for that. Okay, so always change the sign of those numbers the correct way. So I'm going to do y minus y1, and my y1 is 2, so minus 2 is what I write. Okay, again, change the sign of those numbers, right? That's all we're doing. Okay, the slope is m, and in this case we see the m is negative 2. So I'll put negative 2 right there and close the parentheses. And then before I write the x1, I'm going to change the sign of it, right? So again, I have to change the sign of the negative 2 into a positive 2. Okay? And then if we take a look around, we can see which one is the answer, okay? This one or that one? Well, it's got to be this one because this is the one that has a y minus 2 on the left, right? Not this one. This one has a y plus 2. Again, look, we're looking for a y minus 2. Right, so it can't be any of these other ones. All right, so there we go. So again, you're better off being able to cross off the ones to know that it's not that one, because if you can't tell whether it's not something, that's actually kind of a problem, right? That means you don't understand something kind of basic. Right, so make a choice right here, which one you think the answer is. Go ahead, pause the video and think about it if you need to. And we got up here, the answer you should get is B. I noticed that the negative 5, right, the y coordinate goes with the y, so that becomes positive, and the x coordinate goes with the x, and that's negative now, and the slope is negative 3, so it's right there. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, for number 12, what should we have? Right, again, notice I'm looking for one with a slope of negative 7, so look, the only one that even has a slope of negative 7 is D, okay? So this assignment wasn't really that bad. I was trying to focus on you guys learning at least what the slope would be. And I know sooner or later we're going to make some mistakes on changing those other signs, but if you at least know what the slope is, we can work with that, right? Right, so again, the answer for that one was obviously D. All right, it's the only one with the 7. So now 13, we got a slope of positive 3. And look, none of these other lines even have a slope of positive 3. So the answer has to be C. All right, for 14, we're looking for a slope of 1, and it has to go through these 2 points, right? So look, the y coordinate is going to be a positive 1, and I can see this is the only one that even has a positive 1, okay? Then we have a negative 3, so of course, right, this negative 3 turns to a positive, and because the slope is 1, it's like that last one, right? It's an invisible 1 outside of these parentheses that are also invisible parentheses if you think about it. So the answer here is C. Okay, for 15, what should we have, right? We need a slope of 1, so it can't be A and it can't be D. It's going to be either B or C, right? Now look at this. The y coordinate is a positive 1, so that means the thing that goes with y should be the opposite of a positive 1. It should be a negative 1. That means it has to be C because B has a 4. All right, so in this case, we should pick C, and that's what it is. Okay, 15. Again, you want to choose the one with the correct slope, but look, all of these have a slope of 2 or negative 2. This is the only one with the slope of 5. So you go ahead and pick B for this one. Okay, now looking at this example, we're looking for a slope of negative 4/3, and look, there's only one that even has a negative 4/3, so there's not too much thinking involved here. You just go with negative 4/3, and you can go ahead and move on. Okay, so here we go. We're looking for negative 7/5, and look, there's only one that has negative 7/5, right? So this assignment, again, was just me trying to show you guys, like, can you guys even locate this one number and make sure that we can see, okay, I can identify that number every time and know that that's the slope. So the answer here, again, was D. All right, for 19, there's only one possibility with the correct slope. Again, the slope is the number that goes in front outside of the parentheses. Okay, and here we got an invisible negative 1, so, I mean, our answer has to be A. It's got to be that. Next, we got 20. Okay, in 20, we got 4, we got minus 4 and minus 4, right? So we got to have both of these be negative because they're both positive, and then the slope is going to turn into 3/2. And so the only possibility that we have is D, all right? For multiple reasons, right? It's the only one with the right point. It's the only one with the right slope. That's the one we want. Okay, for these ones, this was kind of a review. and this was about perpendicular lines. And so the idea of doing a perpendicular line was that you needed to take the negative reciprocal of the slope. And so after we did that, we'd have to solve to figure out which one would actually go through the correct thing, right? So let's do this problem just to kind of refresh our memories, have an example of how to do perpendicular lines here. So what you had to do was write y equals, all right, and then we'd have to take the negative reciprocal. So I take that negative 1, right, that negative 1, I flip the sign and make it positive, but instead of 1 over 3, I got to have 3 over 1. Okay, so again, the negative reciprocal, right? I take the negative 1/3 and make it positive 3 over 1. All right, then what we want to find is what's the b. Okay, I'm trying to solve for b. And it actually looks like I'm messed it up because I did something that I tell you guys to never do, right? I just started thinking that it was in point slope intercept. But look at the question. It asks for point slope. So what am I thinking, right? I want to make sure I do this in point slope form, right? So to do point slope form, let's write it. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So now what's going to happen is we change the sign of these values like we said, right? Okay, we got y plus 3 equals the perpendicular slope, right? So now I'm not going to copy the negative 1/3, right? I have to change the slope to make it perpendicular. It has to be the negative reciprocal or opposite reciprocal. So we get 3 over 1 is going to be x plus 1, right? Because again, I have to change the sign of both those negative values, okay? So at this point, we can see what we got. We got positive 3, okay? And think about it, right? 3 over 1 is the same thing as what? Same thing as 3. Okay, so we got 3, and this is the 1. Okay, the answer must be C. Okay, so don't forget this idea that perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. That's a really big idea we're going to be stuck with for a long time. Okay, and then 22, we got another example here. We need a slope that is an opposite reciprocal. So think about it. The negative has to become positive, and then instead of 1 over 5, it's 5 over 1. So which one of these could possibly be 5 over 1? It's only B. Okay, it's the only one that could be 5 over 1. Okay, so these multiple choice problems, really, we're just trying to make sure that you guys can eliminate the incorrect options. It's the most important thing for me really right now because it shows me that you at least know some of the basics about what is contained in a form of an equation, right? Again, we're doing point slope, right? So point slope form, we just write it a lot of times, right? Y minus y1. The more times you write it, the more likely you are to memorize it. All right, so we got y minus y1, and my x1 and y1 are right here. All right, so we're going to have y minus 4, okay? And then my slope of m, well, it says the line is parallel to y equals 3. Well, what's the slope? Well, we got to realize that there's no x, right? So think about it. There's no x. So what's the slope? The slope must be a 0, right? There's 0 x's. So that means our slope is 0. So a 0 times x minus 0, okay? Because again, we have to change the sign of that. Okay, so just write minus 0. But think about it. 0 times anything is just 0. So it doesn't really matter what we multiply on the right side here. It's multiplied by 0. So in the end, it's all going to be 0. So we got y minus 4 equals 0. Which one do you see that looks like that? All right. It's option B. Alright, so right here we got negative 7 over 8, and we're looking for parallel, okay? And so this is why we're like, parallel lines have equal, and you guys would say slope, right? So parallel lines have equal slope. So that means we want to copy that negative 7/8, and look, there's only one possibility here. That's this one, okay? So slope intercept form, again, focus on that, right? The positive 3 is a negative 3, right? The x goes with the x, like I said, and the y goes with the y, but notice that those have opposite signs. Okay, so again, that's point slope form. And the answer would have been C. Alright, this is a pretty decent length video, so I'll cut it off right here. Good luck finishing up this assignment. I'm going to mention one thing is that I didn't intend for you guys to finish these problems because we didn't go over them in class. So this will be in a different video, maybe a different day we'll go back over and finish those problems. Alright? but not now. All right, so this assignment is complete once you get from 5 to 24. All right, good luck, yo.